Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Shunned Experience channel with me, Jordan Robertson. In this video, we are going to be delving a bit deeper into the practice of shunning. So, what is shunning? Well, shunning essentially is the result of a member of the Jehovah's Witnesses being disfellowshipped, like myself, or somebody who decides to disassociate. You can be disfellowshipped for many things as a Jehovah's Witness, but disassociating is where not necessarily any wrongdoing has been committed, but you just decide you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness no more. And that can be for many reasons. So you openly write a letter to the body of elders renouncing your faith. But regardless of whether you've done anything what they deem as wrong, it still results in being shunned. Now, the governing body produces a vast array of material to explain and justify why shunning is a loving arrangement. They've got a Watchtower from May the 15th, 2015, which is entitled, "Why Disfellowshipping is a Loving Provision." All in the congregation show true love to the disfellowshipped person by supporting the discipline that Jehovah has given him through the elders. This means they should not spend time with him or even talk to him. Also, the congregation should give extra love and support to the family of the disfellowshipped one. This is a very difficult time for the family. We should never make them feel that they have been excluded from the congregation. Disfellowshipping is an arrangement that we need, one that helps us live according to Jehovah's standards, Julian concludes. In the long run, despite the pain, it brings good results. Had I been tolerant of my son's bad conduct, he would have never recovered. So apparently, disfellowshipping helps the sinner realise that they are wrong. But how about if the governing body are wrong? Because nobody benefits from shunning. What about those who have mental and emotional issues that they are struggling with to this day? What about those who are being shunned to the extent where they can't actually carry on anymore? Because there are many cases of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses taking their own lives as a result of this barbaric policy. The governing body doesn't care about those ones. They only care about the members inside because they still are controlled and allow themselves to be controlled. It's all about keeping membership. It's all about control. You must loyally dedicate everything in your life, even if it means cutting ties with family members who have woken up from this cult. And then the part in the paragraph of that Watchtower where it mentions that they should give extra love and support to the family of the disfellowshipped. Again, what about the support? Who gives support to the ones who are actually being shunned? Yes, it's traumatic and sad for family members who have to shun, but they've got a choice. But sadly, again, it's a classic trait of a cult that allows its members to shun family members and friends. Again, what about the ones who are on the other end of the shunning, who have got nobody to turn to, who have got issues emotionally and mentally to deal with? The governing body doesn't give any regard whatsoever about these ones. So where is the love there? Because they believe, or they claim to believe, in a God that is all loving, all wise, all perfect. But this arrangement of shunning doesn't benefit anybody involved. Because even though those that have to shun their family members try and justify it in their minds, in their hearts, they know it's wrong. Or at least if they don't admit it's wrong, it's traumatic for them to do. It's not a thing that comes naturally. It just causes heartache for everybody. I just don't understand where the love is and where this divine inspiration for a policy like this comes from. Again, it's the governing body scaremongering its members into staying in. Because if you leave, we will take your whole social network, including your family, away from you. What a great tactic to keep membership of this organisation. It doesn't allow you to use critical thinking skills. And then reading that quote from Julian saying disfellowshipping is an arrangement we need. Give us one good reason why you need to shun people or your family members. Well, they'll claim it's to keep the congregation clean because people like myself are wicked, especially apostates. They need to keep the congregation clean and free from anything that they deem to be worldly. But what about keeping the congregation clean when it comes to child abuse? What about the conduct of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses and the policies not only regards shunning, but the lack of transparency in reporting child abuse to the relevant authorities? But no, shun people like myself and other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, but they turn a blind eye to the way they are being led behind closed doors. And it's sad. Like I said in my first video, I don't have an issue with the 8.5 million Jehovah's Witnesses. I feel incredibly sorry for them because they are victims of their own cult. The governing body, as I said, has a lot to answer for. It has a lot to answer for with the damage it causes families. With the damage it causes families in regards to child abuse, to family members losing other family members for refusing blood transfusions. But no, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses need to be shunned. Now, I also thought it'd be interesting to show you a video clip that is produced by Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't just produce literature in the written form. They also produce videos, essentially propaganda. Now, in this video, it's going to show you the personal experience of somebody, from the person who's being shunned, but also the perspective of the family you have to shun. And this is the kind of material that is used to brainwash and control its members. Now, the title of this video is Loyally Uphold Jehovah's Judgment.
It feels so good to be with my family and friends. When I'm with the brothers and sisters in our congregation, it's the best place I could be. My children and I are so happy now. But it hasn't always been this way. My parents were missionaries when my mom got pregnant with me. Mom and Dad were very zealous, and people just assumed that I would follow in their footsteps. And for a while I did. I was the model child who was always held up as an example. Sure, the attention boosted my self-confidence, but it also put me under enormous pressure. It was like everyone was watching me, and I couldn't make a mistake. In my mid-teens, I began to feel torn. I liked the truth, but I felt so confined.
You probably feel so confined because the governing body and Watchtower control every aspect of your life. They control your social network. You aren't allowed to associate or make friends with anybody outside of the religion. Your relationships with the opposite sex are controlled. You cannot form a relationship with anybody outside of the religion. You can't have sex before marriage. You can't live with somebody before marriage. Higher education and university are heavily discouraged. Pursuing a meaningful career is heavily discouraged because all Watchtower want you to do is find part-time or menial work and dedicate all of your spare time to them, to the preaching work, to recruiting more and more Jehovah's Witnesses. Every choice that you make in life is controlled by Watchtower. So I'm not surprised she feels confined, to be honest. And that's how I felt the older I got. You just feel suffocated. And it's a very, very unhealthy way of living your life.
I didn't tell anyone how I felt. I just pretended everything was all right and went through the motions. I envied kids who didn't have to live under so many restrictions. And if they got the truth later in life, they got to experience the best of both worlds. I thought maybe things would improve after I graduated high school. But then at my new job, I met Eric. He truly understood me. He made me feel special. And I loved him. I loved him. In many ways, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I could just do what I wanted. It wasn't long before our relationship became intimate. I felt guilt at first, but after a while, it just seemed that this is what two people who love each other do. And I was willing to give up everything for him. Everything. Looking back, my parents tried hard to do the right thing. To do things Jehovah's way. But because I didn't have a hatred for what's bad, I couldn't see anything wrong with my choices. This eventually led me to do things I later regretted. I ended up getting disfellowshipped.
Sonia Erickson has been disfellowshipped.
It crushed my whole family.
Just look at the way her family looked at her. They looked at her like she was a criminal. They looked at her in complete disgust. I can't say my parents looked at me in the same way, but I can probably say they felt like that. But I have experienced people looking at me like that. It's just as bad as when people don't look at you, who just don't acknowledge your existence. At this point in this video, this girl has met someone from work who seems like a nice guy. They've gone out on a date, and then things have progressed and nature has taken its course. But this deserves shunning. She deserves to be shunned because she's met a guy who doesn't share the same belief system as her. But she's also at a point where she perhaps doesn't believe it anymore. Perhaps wants to go down a different avenue in her life. But because she was baptized so young, a decision she made that really she wasn't capable of being responsible for, she's now being punished for it. And it's so wrong. It's so morally wrong to treat people this way. Again, I come back to the same point. Where is the love in this arrangement? There is no love in this arrangement. It isn't loving for the person being shunned, but it's also not loving for the family. This is what their religion is expecting of them. How loving is that? All this girl has done is meet somebody who potentially she could end up with, potentially she could have a family with, and her family at this point should be happy for her. Because ultimately that's what it all is about in life, is being happy. And when you have children, you just want them to be happy. But as a Jehovah's Witness, your family, especially your parents, are only happy when you're doing what they are doing.
Later, my father explained to me that I couldn't remain in the home because I refused to change my lifestyle. He told me I was having a negative effect on my younger brother and sister. Then I'm out of this house. I was determined to do what I wanted. When I left home that day, all I could think about was Eric. I didn't even care that my parents' hearts were breaking. I didn't think about the devastation and disappointment that I had caused them. I blamed my parents for my situation. I even blamed Jehovah. My family missed me so much, even after all I had done. What helped them to remain loyal to Jehovah for the many years I was disfellowshipped? It was the Bible account of Aaron. Jehovah directly judged 2 of Aaron's sons and put them to death. In this case, Jehovah asked Aaron and his family not to mourn, in order to show the entire nation that they supported Jehovah's judgment.
Well, that's great. Straight to genocide. And on top of that, Jehovah expects Aaron not to mourn over the death of his 2 sons. How harsh is that? And secondly, how is that a good example to use to show evidence that shunning is a loving arrangement? You know, I can imagine the teaching committee on the governing body sat around the table saying, what a great example for this. A, to show shunning is a scriptural policy, but B, the slaughter of people a few thousand years ago could be interpreted as evidence for shunning in the 21st century. And then going back to the video, you can see how distraught the family are that their daughter's been disfellowshipped. And families are distraught. But again, there is no regard for the disfellowshipped member from the congregation, and that is because they listen to what the governing body say. The governing body say, shun them at all costs. Have no contact with them whatsoever. But we'll provide support for the distraught family. We'll give you all the support you need, provided you shun them. Because if you don't shun them, then you'll just end up just like them. Again, this is the level of control that this cult has upon its members. And it is wrong on so many levels. How you can look at this Bible example of Aaron and the death of his two sons as evidence for shunning is just beyond me. I mean, if you go into that account and you see that he's not allowed to mourn over the death of his sons, try and imagine that for those that have got children. Try and imagine how hard it is that they've just been put to death by God, but then being told by God you're not allowed to mourn over the death of them. That's just wrong on so many levels. But this is the kind of control this religion has upon its members. And they don't question it. They think what they are doing is loving, and this is a scriptural arrangement straight from Jehovah.
They loved me and wanted me to come back to Jehovah. I tried to contact them. I just wanted to talk and to hear their voice. I missed being with my family. And they thought about reaching out to me. But they knew that if they had associated with me, even a little, just to check on me, that small dose of association might have satisfied me. It could have made me think that there was no need to return to Jehovah. I was disfellowshipped for more than 15 years. I had 2 children now, and as time went by, I thought about their future. I thought more and more about returning to Jehovah in the congregation.
I think if there's one clip in this short movie that annoys me the most, it's this particular clip. I mean, I know exactly how she feels. There's times when I've reached out to my family and the phone hasn't been answered. But the reason this clip annoys me the most is because her mum can see she's ringing her, and the governing body are telling their parents of children who have been disfellowshipped, do not pick the phone up to your children. What if something was happening to her? What if she was in danger? What if she was short of money? She couldn't pay her rent, couldn't pay her bills, had no food in the fridge. Literally anything. But the governing body are telling parents who have disfellowshipped children, do not pick the phone up to them. They're just encouraging them to be bad parents. And that's wrong. It's so wrong. But they think it's okay. The governing body think this is okay to put upon people. For the stress it causes and distress it causes the parents. But the level of stress, anxiety, depression, sadness it causes ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who are disfellowshipped or disassociated. And as I said earlier in the video, those who unfortunately take their own lives because of actions like that. The governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses thinks it's acceptable to put upon its members, but they think it's acceptable this is how you treat ex-members. This is so wrong. So wrong.
It made me realize just how far off track I had gotten. I was determined to qualify for reinstatement. Nearly a year later,
Before we begin the parts,
my reinstatement was announced to the congregation.
Sonia Erickson is reinstated as one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
I was so happy. The brothers and sisters welcomed me very warmly. Being back together again with my family and Jehovah made me feel so good. I knew this is where I needed to be, and I didn't ever want to leave again.
I think this part was quite sad because unfortunately she's given in to those feelings of just wanting her family back. I mean, the governing body will portray it that she genuinely wanted to come back to Jehovah, and she may well have done. But I can tell you that the overriding emotion and inspiration and motivation to come back generally is just to have contact with family members initially. Some then after that will, redevelop their relationship with God. But generally what gets people back is wanting their family back and wanting their friends back. And that's just emotional blackmail. What kind of organisation emotionally blackmails its members to get them back? Where's the genuine love there? In that clip there where, the congregation are applauding her reinstatement into the congregation and then they're all hugging her at the end, that is the greatest example of conditional love. And then what's even sadder is her two children are sadly now going to be indoctrinated into this religion. They're at a vulnerable age where they've obviously had a few years out or never part of the religion with their mum. But now because their mum's doing it, they'll do it. The children aren't choosing to be there. They're just following their mother and their parents. And it's an unhealthy environment for children because of the level of control it gets from you even at a young age. It got me. Getting baptised at 12. I thought that was what was expected of me. And sadly, in this clip, another two children could and will probably end up being victims of this cult. And it's just a vicious, vicious cycle. Yes, members go, but then members who do remain have children and indoctrinate their children. And then in turn they will indoctrinate their children. But the difference now, hopefully, is more people, especially children, have more access to the internet. When I was a kid, it wasn't really that widely accessible. Whereas now, especially in the Western world, the internet is at your fingertip essentially. And people are reading more. People are watching videos more. People are learning about the natural world and how life did come into existence. But it's just sad that this religion, this cult, emotionally blackmails its members into coming back, will continue shunning those who refuse to come back, who refuse to give in to that, and then will show the biggest example of conditional love by reinstating members and then love bombing them. It's just phenomenal. And it's difficult to comprehend. And it's hard to watch, especially for me. But I don't want people to keep suffering at the hands of this religion. But I also want people who are thinking of leaving that there is support on the other side. There is support in the world. The world isn't a bad place. There are lots and lots of genuine people who will love you unconditionally in the world. Don't let the governing body tell you the world is a big, bad, scary, lonely place, because it certainly isn't. And my experiences, speaking from experience, I can testify to that. Don't let this organisation make you think otherwise. Well, that's just about it for this video. I hope it's given you a deeper insight into shunning. And rather than listening to me explain it to you, I hope seeing what they've got in their literature and then seeing the kind of videos they put together that they use to control their members, it's there to see. You cannot accuse somebody like myself, who they will deem as an apostate, as lying. I've given my opinions on the footage and the Watchtower paragraphs earlier in the video, but it's up to you to form your opinions. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's given you a deeper insight. Please like, share and subscribe to the Shunned Experience channel. And again, thank you very much for watching.